Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister announces several key areas of strengthened relationships with China. The National Security Minister applauds law enforcement officers yet again for a safe Carnival 2014. And a 75-year-old St. Joseph River Bridge to be reconstructed. Thank you for joining us. Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Bissessar says bilateral relations with China will continue to be strengthened in several key areas, including energy, trade and sports. She was speaking during the weekly post-cabinet media briefing.
Prime Minister Kamla Bissessar, just days after her return from China, says 3 MOUs were signed following bilateral discussions held between both nations. Speaking to members of the media during the weekly post-cabinet media briefing, she says the MOUs focus on key issues such as energy, air services, health, sport and economic development. Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine accompanied the PM during the trip. However, Prime Minister Persad says agreements for the energy sector focus on the development of alternative and green energy resources here in Trinidad and Tobago.
The signing of 3 MOUs and a protocol, one on energy. Energy cooperation between Trinidad and Tobago and China is strategic to both nations. As a world leader in the application of CNG for transport, China is increasing its use of cleaner natural gas and has increased its import of LNG. China also imports asphalt from our own lake asphalt here, and of course they've expressed keen interest in getting more of this product.
While the MOUs signed regarding national security include an agreement for long-range vessels, the Prime Minister says an audit of the TNT Coast Guard indicates the need for the acquisition of vessels as well as other equipment for the Coast Guard.
Acquisition of assets for the TNT Coast Guard is currently one of the priorities of the Government of Trinidad and Tobago. They need to acquire the correct number, class, type and variation of vessels for the Coast Guard, which will allow them to conduct their roles and missions such as search and rescue, narcotic interdiction, and maritime patrolling, to name a few, as well as ensuring the people of Trinidad and Tobago receive value for their money, is of vital importance.
She adds that through these agreements, it's expected that there will be an increase in the volume of trade between TNT and China.
In the area of trade and investment, we requested of both the Chinese Premier and President their personal assistance in ensuring that the various loan applications, totaling approximately $5 billion, submitted by the Government of Trinidad and Tobago for 6 new special economic zones, a new transshipment port and dry dock at Le Bray, which I mentioned before, that these be expeditiously processed in fiscal 2014 by their Export-Import Bank in China. Both leaders provided their personal assurances that the applications will be urgently processed by the relevant authorities in China. It should be noted that the construction and completion of these projects by March 2015 will bring significant economic benefits to Trinidad and Tobago, including new economic infrastructure to spur the diversification of the economy and accelerate the development of the maritime economy.
This country shares diplomatic relations with China since June 1974. Despite its first immigrants arriving in Trinidad and Tobago over 200 years ago. Meanwhile, the PM also announced that she will leave TNT on Monday for CARICOM Heads of Government meeting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
Coming out of what many describe as one of this country's safest carnivals, Minister of National Security, Senator the Honourable Gary Griffith, is promising that policies will be put in place to ensure even safer carnivals moving forward.
Speaking at Thursday's post-cabinet media briefing, Senator Griffith reiterates that Carnival 2014 has been one of the safest carnivals to date. This, he says, is due to the hard work of the members of the protective services and the cooperative effort given by all the national security agencies.
I think we can all safely say that Carnival 2014, in terms of national security, it was a success. And it played no small part to the dedication, the professionalism, and the talent that we saw from our law enforcement officials. I wish to praise also the National Operations Center for ensuring proper coordination and communication, which also had a very big part to play in the success. Whereas before, the different arms of the law enforcement agencies, one hand may not have known exactly what the other was doing. Through the National Operations Center, we were able to get the different agencies, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, inclusive of the Coast Guard, the Air Guard, the regiment, also the ODPM, the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services, all working together. It assisted in getting information as quickly as possible, collaboration of that information.
Minister Griffith adds that while the officers worked hard to ensure the public's safety, further planning should be placed into national security matters. He explains that new policies will be put in place to direct this drive, as in the long term, national security policies can provide more stability than crime plans.
The days of crime plans are over. What we are doing now as a government, what we are putting are national security policies. Policies is what is important, that we can use that as a framework, a proper foundation, and also to provide law enforcement officials with the necessary finance, logistics, administration that they require, so that they can go out, who are the anti-crime experts, for them to go forward and to perform. And they most certainly they did that.
The National Security Minister thanks the public for their cooperation with the security services and emphasizes that this is key to winning the fight against crime.
The citizens, they worked hand in hand and they were very supportive, and I wish to thank the citizens for playing their part, for being responsible during the carnival season, but also to providing that element of trust and confidence to pass on information as quickly as possible to the law enforcement agencies. And I've always said that this is going to be an unbeaten combination, with the law-abiding citizens working hand in hand with the law enforcement officials. And when you put those two together, it equals success. And we saw that during the carnival season. We would continue to go along that line. And again, this has to do with a lot of collaboration and proper communication.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. In the next 14 months, there will be a new St. Joseph River Bridge. Now, this comes as the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure has undertaken to reconstruct the 75-year-old steel truss bridge, which has been regarded as structurally deficient. The reconstruction will be done at an estimated cost of $15 million.
Reconstruction works to the St. Joseph River Bridge, located at half Eastern Main Road, St. Joseph, will be spearheaded by the bridge's Land Slips and Traffic Management BLT Project Implementation Unit of the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. According to the ministry, this will be done at an estimated cost of $15 million. The reconstruction entails the demolition and reconstruction of the bridge on the eastbound lane only, which will retain its original location, construction of a single-span bridge 29.5 meters long with 9 precast, pre-stressed AASHTO Type 4 beams, 2 lanes each 3.65 meters wide, and 1 sidewalk approximately 1.5 meters each. The bridge will be supported on spread footings and river works, which includes massed concrete lining on along the channel sides and riverbed. Construction work is expected to be completed in 14 months. This project began on January 6, 2014. Meantime, as the bridge is being reconstructed, the ministry says specific traffic arrangements are in place. The westbound lane of the Eastern Main Road has been converted into two-way traffic, and traffic lights are installed at the corner of Riverside Road and Abercrombie Road. Additional alternative routes can also be utilized: Farm Road, Curep, Harris Street, Bell Smythe Street, and King Street. The reconstruction of the St. Joseph River Bridge is one of 10 projects that falls in Phase 1 of BLT's Bridges Reconstruction Program that was launched in January this year by the ministry. Felicia Wilson-Moore, News 4.
In other news, the on-the-job training program, commonly known as OJT, is expanding. OJT Airports has been launched, and the new program does exactly as the name suggests. It gives young, unemployed individuals the opportunity to work at this country's 2 airports.
Minister of Transport, the Honorable Stephen Cadiz, says Piarco International Airport will soon be transformed to keep on par with the evolution of airports around the world. He makes this bold claim as the new arm of OJT, OJT Airports, is launched at the Piarco International Airport. Addressing those gathered for the launch, Minister Cadiz says he is excited about the initiative as he knows it is integral to national development.
When Minister Karim came to me And very, very recently, and he said, look, he said, we need to be able to get our OJTs into various agencies and learning different skills pertaining to particular agencies and what have you. And we jumped at the opportunity one time because we understand how important and how critical the OJT program is. Of course, this program will not only be for Piarco Airport, but it will also be in Tobago at the ANR Robinson International Airport.
Minister Cadiz is urging those accepted into the program to maximize the opportunities that are available.
Take an opportunity to understand aviation, to understand airports. All right, work with the people here. You're going to be exposed to all kinds of new skills and all kinds of new interests are going to be sparked here at the airport. And I want us to think of it that way, that this is not just aircraft.
The Transport Minister says the opportunities to learn and gain experience at an airport is unimaginable, as airports are now evolving into more than just an airport.
Airport long ago used to be a place where a plane would land, passengers would get off, load back up passengers, and off they went again. But airports worldwide, for those of us who have traveled in different parts of the world, airports worldwide have changed substantially. And airports are now considered to be not only the aviation side, but also on the retail side. Airports have hotels attached to them, conference centers attached to them. Airports are places where that act as hubs in all different parts of the world. And we are looking at Piarco in particular, also in our Robinson Airport, to be that hub for this part of the world.
Minister Cadiz says it is for this reason that change can soon be expected at least one of this country's airports.
What you're going to see is a brand new Piarco, not a new terminal building itself, but how we deal with the space at Piarco. How do the flow of people, how do passengers go in and out of Piarco? People who come to see their friends off, people who are coming to pick up their friends and family, how it all works. So you're going to see a transformed Piarco Airport.
Minister Cadiz is pledging that the Ministry of Transport will continue to support the OJT program. He also hints that the program will soon expand to include jobs at the seaports, the water taxi, and the PTSC. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Sport is up right after the break. Stay with us. The Defence Force team has been a powerhouse in local football since the late 1960s, bringing a sense of professionalism and discipline to top-flight football in Trinidad and Tobago. The members of the first team to officially represent the forces reunited during the carnival season, and News 4 Sports was there as they mingled and swapped war stories. We have more from Wayne Cunningham.
They are still called the Mortar Platoon, the first team who represented the forces in Trinidad and Tobago First Division football. It included the likes of Lincoln Tiger Phillips, Tim Lampkin, Charlie Spooner, and Victor Gamaldo, who took time out to share his experiences as an Army player in the early days.
I was part of the First Army team with Lincoln, Tim Lampkin, Clyde Niles, and we started off and we had a quite successful season for the first season. We got into one final that season and we lost the Colts. But we played quite well for a team that was coming into the First Division for the first time. I think we did extremely well. In future years, from there on, I think the second season we brought in a few more players and we won at least 2 trophies.
With the likes of Colts, Maple, Malvern and Essex in the fray, the Army had to enter the competition playing at a high level to ensure success.
Football in the Army, I think it was extremely enjoyable. It was physical. We were a physical team. We were a quick playing team. The defense was not as strong as the offense. We had an extremely good goalkeeper in Lincoln Phillips was the captain of the team. And Lincoln provided us with all his quality saves whenever people penetrated the defense. So we had a really successful run at it for about 4 or 5 years. That continued after I left, and I would read about it. The success apparently we were even more successful after we left. I would like to think that we contributed to that in preparing them for that success.
The former national midfielder outlined the highlights of his Army playing days.
Winning the league for the first time might have been a highlight because that was an achievement most players strive to attain. Winning the league, I think one year we won 5 trophies. And we went down to South and we played against, I think it was Lantern Giants one year and then Shell in the Good and Chisholm, and we won that too. So we were the best team in the nation that year. That perhaps was the highlight, I think.
Highlight for you?
Highlight for me was always winning. Just win. Win at all costs. That was the highlight of my career, winning. Just winning.
Lenny Whitemeat Gill gave the formula for those wins.
The team, well, as soldiers, you find that the team was real close. You understand? It's everybody for everybody. You understand? We used to train real hard. We didn't use to train like we training for football, you know. We used to train like we training as a soldier. And then you go and play football. You understand? That is the training. It wasn't like normal training. When you're done that, then you train for football. You understand? So it was a kind of all for one for all, that kind of thing. When we was regiment, we used to win every year, almost everything. Every year, at least, we used to win a trophy. Every year, we used to at least win a trophy. You understand? But then we had a team,
Teamwork was and still is the key to footballing success. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
News 4 continues right after the break. Trinidad and Tobago's High Commissioner to London, His Excellency Gavin Nicholas, ensured that the Trinidad and Tobago diaspora in the United Kingdom maintains a strong connection to home, as well as introduced an international audience to Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. This event was hosted on Sunday night as Carnival was brought to life in London.
The Trinidad and Tobago High Commission to the United Kingdom brought a true Carnival experience to London on Carnival Sunday. A brainchild of High Commissioner Gavin Nicholas, the first annual all-inclusive Carnival Fete proved to be a major success, bringing Trinbagonians and other visitors from all over the UK together in a grand celebration of Trinidad and Tobago's culture. Being thousands of miles away from home did not deter hundreds of Trinbagonian nationals from celebrating Carnival Sunday with euphoric abandon at the all-inclusive fete. The event took place on the Roof Gardens in Kensington, London, and proved a true representation of TNT's carnival and culture, along with several local entertainers, including former groovy soca monarch Sherwin Winchester. The vibe was made even sweeter when the CSI Steel Band took to the stage and regaled the crowd with calypso classics performed on the national instrument, enticing the audience to sing along in unison. The atmosphere was further heightened when G&H Tassa Entertainments struck up their Tassa drums, whipping the crowd into frenzy. However, what many seemed to have delighted in was the unmistakable Trinbagonian cuisine. Trinidad and Tobago High Commissioner, His Excellency Gavin Nicholas, expressed his pleasure at the fantastic turnout for the event and acknowledged the appreciation guests expressed to the High Commission for putting on a flawless event. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 Report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you so much for joining us.